In today's video, I'm going to discuss the centre bounce, the ruck rule. So the ability for the rucks to go over the line. Really interesting to hear Brad Scott, Essendon coach, his idea, his theory on Fox Footy a couple of weeks ago. Have a listen now.
Oh, it relates to Coxie and he's kind. I want to bring back Ruckwork, and we don't see rucks jumping at centre bounce anymore. I mean the ruck rule, where you can just come across the line and engage the opposition ruckman. We don't see ruckman jumping as much,
and he's spot on. There's got to be something that we can do to actually create the opportunity for rucks to have a run and jump at it. Get back to it. Maybe a little bit biased, in my opinion, in the fact that I used to love running and jumping, but there's got to be an opportunity for rucks to be able to have that the craft of jumping against each other, be able to set up the mids. How do you position the mids? All that sort of stuff. So it's just a discussion point. In the video today, I want to discuss what my theory is, how you can actually, in that centre circle, be able to create an opportunity for those rucks to jump at each other and eliminate the ruck standing on the line, coming across and taking the space of the opposition ruck. And my other theory is how you would set up to eliminate players running into the umpires. So from all 9 games on the weekend, there was only 2 players, there was only 2 ruck contests at the start of each game where both players started here. So this is the Carlton versus Brisbane. There's Pitnet. There's the line. All right, so that's the first centre bounce of the game. Then he just comes across and takes that space. So this is what Brad Scott's talking about. The ability for rucks to be able to at least get some sort of jump in the air instead of being able to come across and just make it a stop play. Gold Coast Suns versus Collingwood. Wits right there, right near the line. So my theory, which I'll show at the end of this video, will hopefully... It's up for discussion. It's only my theory, but it's up for discussion. So you can see in this situation, Wits is right near the line, steps across, and it becomes a stop play, pretty much. So it sort of takes away... getting the Nick Natanuis, they're jumping into the rucks and getting up there and palming it in different spots. I mean, I think we need to see this in the game. Geelong versus the Giants. Briggs, right on the line. Sean Darcy. Hawks versus Freo, right on the line. He couldn't get any closer, to be honest. Grundy, even though he's been in really good form with his tap work and his second and third efforts around the ground, look how close he is to the line. Right on it. So when the ball it's bounced, hasn't even moved. Marshall, well, you can't because he's taken up the space already. So it just becomes a stop play. In my personal opinion, this needs to change. Sherry, right on the line, and they spoke about last night actually on Footy Classified with Simon Goodwin on there, James Hurd, talking about how Grundy would come straight across and took Gawn's space, eliminated the opportunity to actually run and jump at the ball. So we get to the well, I think I said 2, but there's 3 games from the weekend where both rucks got back and actually jumped at each other. So Richmond and Essendon. So even though it become a bit of a stop play, there's the opportunity to jump because they got separation from each other. They ended up being a stop play, those 2. They're not... Or Goldstein used to be a jumper and Nankervis, but at least they had some opportunity to actually jump. They had the opportunity to jump in that situation. So Adelaide versus Western Bulldogs. So they had, once again, even English goes back. O'Brien's giving himself space. And then O'Brien's trying to, but there's an opportunity there for Inglis to jump, even though he goes in and makes contact for a stop play. Still, they've given themselves separation. And then the last game, which is Port versus the Eagles, given themselves. And I think this is the only first centre bounce contest of every game over the weekend where both rucks actually jumped, sort of semi-jumped. You could tell they're trying to jump at the same time. So that was the only game from the weekend. So this brings to the part of the video where I want to provide a solution. I want to provide an opportunity for discussion on how you can provide a bit of space for actual rucks to be a bit more agile, the ability to jump at each other. And it's not going to permanently eliminate crossing the line, but at least it's going to give you some sort of distance between both rucks to be the ability to actually go against each other. And another thing I want to add in here is where you can actually position yourselves as a midfielder to eliminate not hitting the umpire. So my theory is this, and I'll go to the red marker circuit. So this is obviously the centre bounce circle at the moment. What I would like to see is, and you probably just need to, you can draw it over the line or whatever you want to do, but you have a line down here and you have a line here. So it's on the edges of where the smaller circle is. When the umpire comes in to bounce, whether they come from, if they come this way and they back out that way, you can have your mid set up there. Okay? But if you've got the line here and the umpire is backing out this way, you can have your mids here. So essentially what I'm saying in this is that if the umpire is backing out here, you cannot have any midfielders in here, but you can obviously up on this position here. All right, so that's one area. That's one thing you can do. So that's a no-go zone. This area here is a no-go zone for mids, and it's in the width of where that. So they have to stand. The mids obviously have to stand either there or either there. They cannot go into that zone. The other part with this too is the rucks. So as you've seen with the rucks, where that's a pretty bad line, where they've started here or they've started here and been able to access. If by doing this, by creating, if they can start there, but what it does, if the opposition ruck's starting here, by the time the balls bounce, it's a lot further to come across. So what you're doing is you're creating separation. You're creating that separation to allow this ruck. So if the X is his or her intention is to get across the line as quick as they can, the distance is quite further than where it is when you're right on the line. So you still obviously need to have the line because that's where the umpires wants to bounce and that's where he wants to exit. But by having a line on the outside of where this little circle is, provides separation, provides distance. So this, as I said, if the intention of this ruck is to get across the line really quickly, when you're bouncing the ball and you have this separation, it allows for this particular ruck to either go this way or go this way. Even still, come back further. So the distance is a lot further. So it gives him or her the opportunity to jump at the opposing ruck. By this line just creates, what you're doing is just simply creating separation and you're giving them an opportunity to actually jump at the ball, and this creates different strategies for the likes of the Briggs, for the Sherrys, for the Sean Darcys that stand right on the line and trying to get across, and Grundy as well. But it just creates, what I'm trying to do here is create another opportunity for discussion, whether this could work, whether it couldn't work. But I feel that you've got to provide the separation for both rucks, and this would be a suitable solution to actually creating that. So that is simply just my theory. We want to be able, if you provide the separation between the rucks, and if you create that line, you've got separation. So even though they're going to come across, it still allows for the opposition ruck to actually be agile, be nimble, use their feet. It's like the centres. in the NBA or any basketball. They nibble on their feet. They've got to move because they're always being checked. But they've got separation. You can have separation in this sort of situation. And when it comes to the basketball, for instance, you're only allowed on the key for a certain amount of time, but you still are creating separation. They're not just in that key for a period of time. They've got to get out. They've got 3 seconds to get out. But what they're doing when they do that is they're creating separation, so they're able to go for the rebound, offensive rebound, whatever it is. In this situation, you're creating space. So you're allowing for one ruck or both rucks to jump at each other, but you're also allowing for one of the rucks if the opposition ruck is trying to cross the line. The other important part about that is if the umpire is backing out that way, in between that corridor where the lines are, you can't have a mid. You can have a mid on the other side, but you can't have a mid sitting behind that umpire. So it allows clean path for them to come through, and then once the ball's bounced, umpire's cleared, and then you can initiate and go for the ball. That's just my theory. Open for discussions. Put some comments below. Tell me what you think. It's certainly a hot topic at the moment. It was spoken about on Fox Footy last week. Once again, last night on Footy Classified. I know as a ruck, I want to see that art come back into play, and I know for a fact that a lot of rucks have discussed this as well.